Well, the interior is all installed on a Boston Whaler. Let me show you how we did this and how we got it together and got it installed. It is a Super Sport interior, so we've got this lid, console's built and put in. I'm pretty pleased with the way it's come out. So let's go ahead and go through the installation. One thing I did do is I put some kiwi grip on the floor. Rather, I wasn't too happy with the blue paint. It didn't come out as good as I expected. I might do a video on how not to do kiwi grip. Might not. We'll see. Anyway, just so you know, the floor is white now. It's not blue anymore. Alright, we're getting ready to put the interior in. Got it all laid out. The first thing I'm going to do is drill out some holes for the clamps, the sideboards if you will. 5 screws in each. Get those holes drilled out. When I mount it, initially just going to mount it with 1 screw. I'm not going to use any sealant, but I'm going to go back and follow up with sealant after we get it all positioned. And if you look at the back of the boat, you'll see I got a gas tank and a battery box laid out. I just want to make sure that where we put the clamps and the seats and the storage box that there'll be enough room to get the gas tank in and out. Battery box is not a big deal, but the gas tank is. So let me go ahead and mark these off. I'm going to do 5 screws in each seat clamp. And I'm going to go halfway up. So the seats are 1 inch thick, so we're going to put a hole a 1/2 inch up. I'm marking out where the holes are going to be for the screws that mount the seat clamp. 1 at the very front, 1 at the very back, and then on either side of the rear seat, and 1 somewhere in the middle between the console and the rear seat. Is it recording?
Yes.
Okay. Alright, so I've got the seat flipped upside down, and I'm going to attach the bottom of the storage compartment to it. The interior that Bob Latourelle provided has a good storage compartment. It's a type of plywood, marine grade I'm assuming. Assembling it right here. One thing I did do is I added 2 coats of epoxy primer and then 2 coats of 2-part polyurethane to make it as waterproof as possible. So one neat thing is that the storage compartment is actually attached to the rear seat, and there's a vertical piece that goes on there. You can see us setting the seat in place, and we'll start putting the side clamps up in a minute. Once we get the side clamps in, we're going to just check the fit for everything and put the backrest on and see how the lid for the storage compartment fits. So here we're setting the side clamps in place, and we're going to shoot some screws in there. Now, one thing to remember when you're assembling, and not only a Super Sport, but probably any one of these interiors, is don't tighten up those side clamps until everything's in place and measured correctly. So the next step after getting this clamp put in, again loosely, is going to be to get the backrest up on there and attached. So let me go ahead and get that done now. You can see us laying it in place. I'll do some careful measurements because I want the screws to be symmetrical top to bottom, side to side, from the left port side to the starboard side. So once we get those measurements done, I'll go ahead and drill some pilot holes, and it'll attach to the C-clamp on both sides. So I opened up the hole a little bit more just so that the screw will go into it without binding to the back. So once we got the backrest on, the next step was to put the lid on the back of the storage compartment. Now what you're going to see here is that the lid kind of floats up in the air. That's not what we want. Now we've already moved the back of the seat. I had mentioned 22 inches is the norm, up to 25 inches to accommodate this. It still wasn't enough, so we needed another plan of attack. Now, what I do want to stress is there's nothing wrong with this interior. I think it's the older model Boston Whalers have a little bit of a slant towards the back on the side You can probably see it resting right here, and that's holding up the lid. So we had to get creative. We ended up taking the whole thing off, and I cut a 1/2 inch off of the top because that's about how much the lid was protruding, and went ahead and reinstalled it. So here's the fun part. Now we're taking this all apart, getting ready to carry it off to the workshop, put it on a bench, and from there I will cut a 1/2 inch off of the very top of that white piece that's being lifted up right now. So here we are putting it back together again. If you look at that storage compartment, the top strip is bare wood, and I'll coat that in later, but that was just enough to let the storage compartment fit in correctly. And as we put on the finishing touches, you can see it's a perfect fit. Alright, so the next step is to secure the storage compartment to this board that goes across the top. It's pretty sturdy now, but I decided to buy some extra screws and go ahead and secure this. I figure it's not going to hurt to have it firmly attached. So alright, next thing I'm going to be doing is putting this lid on. Let's find the prettiest side. This side. And the way this has to be done, we want to space it about 1/8 of an inch. And Bob Latourelle, when you buy the interior from him, he gives you all the hardware that you need to do this as well. So let me get out the hardware. And also, I got these handy little things. These pieces of cardboard just happen to be exactly 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to put one on each side. That way when we mount this, we'll have that 1/8 of an inch clearance in there. I'm actually going to use a different side. I'm going to go ahead and use this one. This operation is actually really best done with two people. One person can help hold it up while the other person does all the attachments. So we got just two pieces of cardboard here giving us 1/8 of an inch, almost exactly. I've got this extension which will allow me to get it in there straight. I'm going to remark these at 4 inches as I flip it around. And that'll come off with a little bit of alcohol. I won't use acetone or anything too harsh. So I'll speed the video up. There's no use spending a lot of time driving screws. Now the concept's basically the same, setting the hinges in and really going for the two outside hinges. Then I'll measure dead center between the two and I'll put a hinge in there as well. There you can see me measuring dead center between the two here, getting a mark, and of course putting that third hinge right in between the two. Symmetry is everything. All right, this is looking good. Well, the last piece of putting this together is going to be to get the console in. I've got all the wiring and everything out of the way, steering helm's in, so it's time to put the console. And that will be the last piece of putting the interior together. So let me go ahead and get to that. So there's only 5 screws holding the console in, and I'll show you what they are real quick. There's 2 that are down there. They're underneath you. 2 here, 2 here, and 1 here. Well, getting those last 2 screws in was a bit of a pain, but they're in. The interior is finished. There's a lot of things that are going on right now, doing the rub rail, doing the electrical, mounting the engine. I'll have videos on all of these, but they'll be sporadic, so you'll see some things popping up and in and out of videos as we go along till we get it finished. But we're down to the finish line. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video and you've gotten something out of it. If you have, hit like, share it, and definitely don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.